glad to be here. This is really a very interesting time for all of us. Being of Indian origin, having spent 18 years in the US, the last 8 years back in India, it amazes me when actually I'm in conferences like this. Um, I was talking this morning, there are three things we talk about in the Eastern world about transformation. And I call it the three S's. It's called Seva, Satsang, and Simran. Seva is our work, our body of work, which gives us a deeper sense of meaning. Satsang is our collective consciousness of we actually sitting down in a closed space, intenting what we want to do. And Simran is actually connecting with our higher consciousness. So I'm really delighted to be here. I actually want to thank Jeffrey Martin, Nicole, Mikey, and a whole bunch of people who really have made this possible. I don't think when I came to the country in 1990, I could have actually spoken about higher consciousness, well-being. The big thing when I came in the US in 1990 was having a big steak, smoking a cigar, driving a nice expensive car. And that was what you really wanted to do. Today, if you have a steak, they'll kind of tell you like, aren't you worried about greenhouse gas effects? Or look at the antibiotics in the steak. What the hell are you doing? We have tread lightly, being very positive. So that's a great kind of transformation, and it's amazing to see that happen in my lifetime. So before I really talk about my topic, which I think I can see there, building digital platforms to serve the whole self, I'm actually talking, what do I speak today? I'm talking along with the research being done at the Chopra Foundation. Paul Mills, I think, is over here. Deepak Chopra, the co-founder, who's been a great inspiration in my own life transformation. So this is as much a transformation of myself. If you had met me when I was 28 years old, I was not the nice person to be with. I was very driven. I left India when I was 20 years old. I was in love with a girl, and I decided to run away from home because my mom said, you can't marry her. And I said, let me show you how I do it. And I left to the United States. So I basically left India with $1,000. And I came here and we broke up in 6 months. So I'm like, great. And now you want me to start over. So at that time, I started doing my master's. And when I broke up, I said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm kind of done with what I'm doing. And that was the first question. I asked myself, who am I? And what is the truth? And this was in 1995 when I started this journey. So more than what I do, let me kind of share today why I do what I do, or why do we do what we do. And this is kind of the journey. So what I want to do is go to the next slide. Oh, I think I have my slide ticker here. Sorry, I can do that myself. There you go. This is kind of a backdrop. I think when I went back to India in 2007, and I started this movement called the Weightless Project. I went to a country and I realized all of a sudden India was they were basically the highest diabetic population in the world. And I saw this huge contrast between people who wanted to lose weight, who were overweight, obesity, lifestyle disorders. On the other hand, malnutrition, hunger. And I was like, what can I do about it? And this video was kind of how we kicked off that movement. I would like you all to watch it, and then I'll kind of give you the story, of what happened after that. Sorry, yeah, go ahead and play the video.
There has never been a time when obesity has been a more serious problem. It's all around us, affecting children and adults alike. Despite our efforts at watching our weight, we are still losing the fight against obesity. But while the world around us is grappling with losing weight, there is a more serious problem that we seem to have forgotten. A problem that affects those less fortunate than us. According to the World Health Organization, the single greatest threat to the world's public health is hunger and malnutrition. Every year, millions of children and adults die due to lack of access to basic nutrition. So here's the situation. There are millions succumbing to obesity, and at the same time, millions dying from being severely undernourished. How do we restore balance in a world faced with a weight problem spanning two extremes? Presenting the Weightless Project, an initiative where any attempt at shedding a few pounds results in funds that will help the undernourished gain vital weight that could possibly save their lives. Every minute on the treadmill, every calorie burnt on a run, or even something as simple as joining a gym could change someone's life. This project helps you and the world get healthy. If any of us ever needed another reason to work out, this is it. Hi, I'm Deepak Chopra, and I support the Weightless Project. To know more,
So this was the backdrop of how I started the Weightless Project. I realized that it's very interesting that people are trying to lose weight, they're joining gyms, they're buying all these fitness trackers and things like that. But we're really not able to stick to this. What is really going on? Why are we not able to make behavioral changes? So I worked very closely with Fitbit, the Jawbones, the Misfits, all the different devices. And I realized that, okay, how can we actually get people who wanted to lose weight to also help people who really needed the weight? And that's when we started looking at this concept of balance, right? How can I use technology as a lever? And it worked really well. And I realized a couple of things which came out of it. It wasn't about weight loss. Somebody like me, I don't think I'm going to lose any more weight. It's about feeling good about your weight. It's about a sense of empathy. I realize when a child cries, when the child's a baby, the child cries because the child is hungry and wants to eat and cries and wants to eat. Great. As adults, when we eat, we also are crying, but we're crying for love. We're crying for emotional support. So it's not so much about weight, it's about emotions. I said, step number one, let me understand how to quantify emotion, right? The second thing, when I went back to India, I realized the city I grew up in, Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley of India, the high-tech capital of the world, or outside the Silicon Valley, also had the highest suicide rate. I'm like, what happened? How did this city, which was a retirement capital, become the suicide capital? Second thing which I noticed when I started looking at research, when I started talking to people, that we have a feeling that we are super connected, but very lonely. It's okay to be alone, but not lonely. And I realized today we have Snapchat, Tinder, WhatsApp, Facebook, Google Plus, super connected, but lonely, right? So I realized that this was an interesting challenge. So can I look at social interaction, social behavior, and kind of be able to trigger and understand changes and using the mobile phone? This kind of gave me kind of my first clue. Like, can I use a mobile phone? Because everybody in India or emerging market has two phones with them. So what can we do with this, right? So I kind of started looking at saying, okay, can I look at the causation? Can I find triggers of depression? I know my own personal story is that when I was 28 years old, we had our first child. My wife went through postpartum depression. We were in Washington, D.C. And the first thing you do when you go to a doctor, they have to prescribe you antidepressants, right? It's a chemical change. But I called my friend who was a doctor. He says, Poonacha, this is quite normal, man. But it's very serious. You got to do something about it. I realized she hated me because I was the cause she was pregnant. She hated her parents because they're like, they don't really get it. Hated her friends because they are partying and then she's with the baby. What helped was community, other mothers. And we realized that part of well-being is really creating communities, online and offline. Can we do that? The third lesson I learned there were only three things we really needed to do. We had to help people sleep, got to help people move, got to help people eat better, and got to help people have better social connectivity. I said, okay, got that, right? Third thing which I realized when I went back to India was also, and this is happening all over the world, my son's 14 years old, is actually wants to be a pro golfer, has asthma. And the air pollution in India is terrible. So basically what I started doing was that I really want to understand a correlation between air pollution and how much of time you can play golf, right? So I started looking at air quality data and mapping air quality data to the UV index, temperature, and so basically start biohacking to say how long can you play golf today before he needs to go back, and get back home. So today, what affects us is all the things we don't see, which is air pollution, water pollution. We started kind of quantifying this entire case about personal, societal, environmental. And this became kind of the technology we started looking at and tracking, understanding behavior. And there's a whole bunch of information how PM 2.5 and air pollution data basically impacts. Basically, apparently when the Orioles baseball game happens, hospital admissions go up, right? So there's very interesting correlation between environment and social behavior. I'm going to skip this slide in the interest of time. So really, this is what I started doing. I really started biohacking myself. I started basically over the next 2 years, connected myself with everything out there. I mean, I'm kind of the walking, I have the Alive Core, which basically looks at my ECG data. I have basically this is what you call brain entrainment device. I have HeartMath, I have Muse, I have the Spire. I said that was all great. I got a lot of information. As an engineer, like Mikey said, this was like a nirvana for me. Then I started talking to the common man, and they really said, I really don't care about data. Data doesn't do anything. It just overwhelms me. So that's when I started looking at this whole quantified self movement, and I said, okay, there's tons of data. What I talk about, the 1.0, which is about wearables. The 2.0, I talk about, it's about the apps. You got an app for everything, right? What we are really focusing on is looking at, can I take the data and the information to give me insights to make behavior change, right? So it's about what I call becoming a contextual service provider. There's so much of content on the internet, there's so much of information, but can I give it the right context? When content meets context is when we can provide insight to a person and make behavior change happen. Example, I flew from India to here. I'm across, to basically 8 time zones. So what happens then, if I now had technology which said, what, Poonacha, you need to hydrate so much. By the way, this is how we can adjust your biorhythm. And by the way, this is at 5 o'clock in the evening, it's light's too bright. So I basically want you to kind of dim down the light so that your circadian rhythm can get balanced. You know what? It's meaningful information. That information will now help me to make a behavior change. So this became one of the insights we started looking at. And really the goal of what we have been trying to do is to take the momentum of technology, which has been created by this entire quantified self movement, to empower people, personal, societal, environmental, and to make about behavior change. And that's really the core focus of everything we are doing today. And that's really I would say, the inspiration for us. The next slide talks about, so, we're talking about discovery. So what I realized at that time, the phone is such a powerful device. I realized that, you might forget your wallet, but you never forget your phone. Especially in emerging markets, the phone has so much information. So we could do the 4 things we set out doing. One was, can I figure out sleep? Sleep is the most important thing for all of us, right? From the time you pick up the phone in the morning, before you go to bed, you keep the phone down. Typically, when you wake up, use it as an alarm. I can tell you duration of sleep, not quality of sleep. The second thing, I can map pretty much what you do during the day, at home, at work, at play, on the road, using your phone, right? I can now sample the phone during periods of time. I can basically tell you what is the noise level in your day. In the evening, I can turn the camera on and off. I can then figure out what is the light, how bright is it, right? I can then basically connect it with my calendar, my call logs, and what's happening in my day. I can now create a model. What is Poonacha's day like? So what we have done is that, and this is something I'll talk to you guys after the conference, I want to really create this open source kind of a movement which really creates what I call the life event ontology, right? How do I take a high-level event, which is attending a conference, meeting somebody for lunch, to actually going and creating a low-level event, right? Which is basic with your sensor data and coming up with correlations and causations. And that's really what we're looking at. On the days Poonacha slept less than 5 hours, what happened? He spoke to these kinds of people, he had these kinds of meetings, you were on the road for 4 hours, XYZ. Once I give you the correlation, you can find the causation. The first step to behavior change was awareness. Can I be more aware? And this is something we're working on using mobile phones. I'm going to, in the interest of time, since I just got my cue over here, I'm going to just basically get into behavior change. What we really started doing was putting this concept of a cue, routine, reward loop, right? Look at smoking. Don't tell people to stop smoking. That's something I realized. If you want people to stop smoking, get them to start running. If they love running, they'll stop smoking. Don't tell people to stop something, right? So that's really been the approach we have taken. Typically cues, people, place, time, emotion, and a preceding behavior. 5 cues in life. Look at smokers. They have a meeting, maybe with their boss. That's a cue, people and place. Reward, I want to relax. Everybody wants to relax. Routine is smoking and the craving is nicotine. You always will have these cues in life. You always want to be rewarded to relax. The key is that can we insert a new routine in between. And this is how we have used mobile technology to insert new routines. So I'm going to skip the 5 pillars of physical well-being and the drivers of change. Basically, drivers of change are very simple. You got to give people the right content. create right physical spaces, parks, things like that. Use technology. Technology is going to be inevitable. It's part of our daily lives, right? Use metrics. Give people information which is measurable, and then look at products and services which enhance their lives. So what have we done? So we have kind of created a platform. We'll talk about JIYO in about 1 minute. It's a contextual platform which provides consumers the ability to change their own personal behavior. But what we did, we took at the 10 facets of well-being. Look at well-being, we talk about, first thing is intention. We got to have intention. Second one is mind-body connection. Third is exercise. Fourth is nutrition. Fifth is looking at sleep and awareness. Sixth is looking at love and relationships. Eighth is looking at youthful mind. Ninth is career, and 10th is finance, right? You might have six-pack abs, but if your bank balance is zero, no amount of working out is going to help you, right? If you're eating everything right, but you don't have love in your life, it doesn't help. The key thing for us is actually having well-being included in everything we do, right? We took a kind of a holistic approach. I just came off a conference, and it's kind of synchronicity here. When I saw a Singularity presentation with Daniel Kraft, he talked about the paradigm shift in health and wellness, where instead of the patient will see you now, instead of the doctor will see you now, it's patient will see you now. So it's about actually changing a healthcare system. So very quickly, I'm going to give you a 1 minute video, 2 minute video, which kind of ends our talk, and then we'll kind of open it up for any questions. You can just play this video. It's kind of an insight of what we are trying to do with JIYO.
Joyful, energetic body, loving, compassionate heart, reflective, alert mind, lightness of being.
I want to thank everybody. Right.